Look into a mirror and shift your focus from one eye to the other. After the experiment, we all arrive at the same conclusion. Despite the movements of your eyes, you can never see them moving. However, an observer standing nearby can see the movements clearly. Your brain intentionally blocks the motion in between. In the late 19th century, Louis-Émile Javal began to question what really occurs when the human eye switches focus between different objects. In one experiment, the curious French ophthalmologist carefully observed people as they read a book. Javal identified a significant detail. Their eyes did not move continuously across the page, but instead made rapid jumps from one word to another. This discovery would later become known as saccadic masking or omission. It revealed that our perception of a continuous visual world is built from a series of quick, precise snapshots. What began as a simple observation in a reading experiment opened the door to a deeper understanding of vision, attention, and the hidden mechanics of the human brain. Saccades are generally considered the fastest movements produced by the human body. Think of the human eye like a tiny flashlight in a dark room. To see the entire room clearly, you must point the flashlight at different objects, one by one. Saccades are the quick shifts of that flashlight. A saccade is a quick ballistic simultaneous movement of both eyes between two fixation points. The term ballistic means that once a saccade begins, its trajectory and destination cannot be altered until the movement is completed. These movements can range from tiny adjustments of less than 1 degree to large shifts exceeding 40 degrees of visual angle. A typical saccade lasts between 20 and 200 milliseconds, depending on the distance the eyes must travel. Humans make approximately 3 to 5 saccades every second while awake. Over the course of a day, this can amount to thousands of eye movements. Without saccades, vision would be highly inefficient because the image projected onto the retina moves at enormous speed. If the brain processed this information normally, the world would appear blurry whenever the eyes moved. To prevent us from seeing blurry images, our visual system evolved a remarkable mechanism known as saccadic suppression. This is when our visual system significantly reduces sensitivity to incoming visual information. During each saccadic movement, clipping off all blurry parts and piecing together only sharp detailed images. Now, before we dive deeper, it is essential to understand how vision occurs in humans. At a basic level, vision occurs when light reflected from objects enters the eye through the cornea, which bends the light and helps focus it. The light then passes through the pupil, whose size is controlled by the iris and is further focused by the lens onto the retina at the back of the eye. The retina contains specialized photoreceptor cells called rods and cones that detect light intensity and color. These cells convert light energy into electrical signals. The optic nerve transmits the signals to the visual cortex in the brain, where the information is interpreted as coherent images. Originally, the image appears upside down on the retina. However, the brain flips the image, allowing us to perceive the world in its proper orientation. The brain combines signals from both eyes to perceive depth, shape, color, movement, and distance. Scientists began investigating the effects of eye movements in the 19th and 20th centuries. Researchers noticed that people rarely perceive the motion blurriness that should accompany rapid eye movements. The visual system appears to suppress incoming information when the eyes are moving. This phenomenon later became known as saccadic suppression. During a saccade, sensitivity to visual stimuli decreases dramatically. The brain effectively reduces the processing of certain visual signals, especially those associated with motion and large-scale image shifts. Rather than allowing blurred information to reach conscious awareness, the visual system temporarily dampens visual perception. The main benefit of saccadic suppression is the removal of motion blurriness. During rapid eye movements, images move quickly across thousands of photoreceptors in the retina. If the brain processed all of this visual information, every eye movement would create a blurred image. By temporarily reducing visual perception during these movements, the brain prevents this blurriness from reaching conscious awareness. The brain fills that brief dark gap by effectively stretching the last clear image you saw across time. Instead of showing you a blur or brief blackout, the brain seamlessly blends information from before and after each saccade. The result is the illusion of a stable, uninterrupted world. The combined total of visual suppression periods can add up to a substantial amount of time, often estimated at roughly over 1 hour of reduced visual sensitivity in one day. Human vision is often perceived as a straightforward process, in which the eyes capture images and transmit them to the brain for interpretation. In reality, visual perception is a highly complex and dynamic process involving continuous selection, filtering, and interpretation of sensory information. One of the most important mechanisms involved in this process is visual suppression, a phenomenon in which certain visual information is inhibited or prevented from reaching conscious awareness. Rather than passively receiving all incoming stimuli, the visual system actively suppresses information that may be irrelevant, conflicting, or disruptive to perception. Saccadic suppression is just one type of visual suppression. There are several types of visual suppression. Aside saccadic suppression, one of the most widely studied forms of visual suppression is binocular suppression. Humans normally view the world with two eyes, each receiving slightly different images due to their different positions. The brain combines these images into a single coherent perception through a process known as binocular fusion. However, when the images presented to each eye differ significantly, for example, when one eye sees a blurry image and the other sees a clear one, or the eyes point in different directions, due to a medical condition like strabismus, the brain may suppress one image while allowing the other to dominate perception. This process is called binocular suppression. Binocular suppression is closely related to strabismus. Strabismus, commonly known as crossed eyes, is a visual disorder in which the eyes do not align properly and point in different directions. As a result, each eye sends a different image to the brain. It is already clear to us that under normal circumstances, the brain combines the slightly different images from both eyes into a single three-dimensional perception through a process known as binocular fusion. However, when the eyes are misaligned, fusion becomes difficult or impossible, and the brain receives conflicting visual information that can lead to double vision and visual confusion. To avoid these disturbing sensations, the visual cortex may begin to suppress or ignore the image from one eye. As a result, the individual perceives a single image despite the eyes pointing in different directions. Persistent suppression reduces the brain's use of input from the deviating eye, which may lead to decreased visual acuity in that eye. Over time, the suppressed eye may contribute less and less to visual processing, impairing depth perception and stereopsis, because true binocular cooperation is lost.